Okay, let me just make
We're
sure. I just
back.
need to make sure that it is in fact going. Yep, we have them. I am monitoring it. All right, excellent. I'm just gonna give it actually maybe like one more minute to see
Absolutely.
to let people yeah trickle in.
Absolutely.
So just being like a floating shoulder.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
fitting in two people on a screen is hard.
it is, and we're just like sort of in the corner of a large room
With some fantasy mushrooms
with some
behind
fantasy
us.
mushrooms.
Indeed. Okay.
People.
Who have hopped on?
But I do know that we will get started and they can jump in. Okay, so in general, to everyone in person and online, I would like to say welcome. Family, friends, hopefully new friends in person or remote. Thank you so much for being here to hear nature speak. So before we begin officially, I would like to recognize that the Puget Sound is on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, and we acknowledge the history of dispossession and the forced removal of Indigenous nations in the process of colonization. We currently occupy the stolen land of the Puyallup tribe, who have been the caretakers of this land and sea since time immemorial. This is the first and not the last step in our commitment to the ongoing fight for justice for Indigenous populations. So this event, Blood, Bones, and Brushes, Art in the Body, is dedicated to elevating the voices of queer, non-binary, transgender, fat, chronically ill, and disabled artists, and any and all intersectionality between. The event is the third of four, each event dedicated to a single artist whose work and art deals with the bodies in some manner. This event is the collaboration between Art Temple Studio, run by myself, Anna Nesheba, and the Daspes Performance Project, run by Sophie Nevin, who is also here, my lovely co-host. So a little bit of background on our organizations. Art Temple Studio was founded in 2022, and it was envisioned as a studio that centered the disabled experience and cultivates collaboration with other disabled artists. Inspired by a near complete lack of queer, disabled stories and representation in mainstream media and art spaces, we craved a place to channel our projects and make art directly for and with our community. The values of imagination, access, community, and education are paramount here. The Daspes Performance Project was founded in 2018 as a loose collection of queer dancers, founded by Sophie Marie Schatz. Over the last 4 years, the collective has created 8 short dance pieces and films, several live shows throughout Western Washington. In January 2023, the group incorporated into a nonprofit dance company, and the mission is to support queer and disabled dancers in creating accessible spaces to work in dance professionally. Our work, Ray just walked in. Welcome, come on in. So we're just introducing everyone right now. Our mission of the Daspes Performance Project is to support queer and disabled dancers in creating accessible spaces to work in dance professionally. I think I said that. Our work focuses on the weird and wonderful aspects of folklore, queerness, and disability. So if you enjoy this event and would like and are able, we are accepting donations. For this event, we accept cash, check, and Venmo payment methods. And if that's not your thing, that's totally okay. Please enjoy the event, enjoy the food, enjoy your home if you are at home. It's all good. And we would like to give a special thanks actually to Ray Nesheba Nara, whose donations have helped support all of our speakers in this event. As a final note, before I turn this over to nature, we would like to thank Crescent Moon Gifts for providing this space and for being so communicative and an amazing collaborator in an effort to make this event happen. So before I turn this over to nature, nature is a non-binary burlesque bimbo whose work, I'm sorry, my phone is being slow, but whose work centers around expressing emotion through movement and weaving their trans indigenous identities through the sound waves. Is that about right?
That is 100% right.
Okay, good. I did memorize it.
I
All
love
right,
that.
so I will actually let nature, oh, can you hear it okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, absolutely. Come on over. Oh, we actually didn't set up the projector. But anyways, so I'm going to turn this over to nature now to give a little introduction on their work and their portfolio. And then we are going to do a little interview. So take it away.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for the introduction. Yeah, when thinking about what I wanted to share, I wanted to share a little bit about my journey kind of into the burlesque world, and name kind of the supports that I've had to get here. So my direct mentor is Whisper de Corvo, and they started House de Corvo, which I'm a part of. And when their mentorship option became available, it was something that I didn't even think about. I just kind of did. And at the time, I hadn't been dancing with my disability had been escalating, and the pandemic was a thing that was limiting my ability to interact with the public and just available performance spaces in general. And so I was kind of excited about this opportunity to get direct mentorship. I had been interacting with the burlesque community, and one of my main like aha wow, this is amazing spaces is Goddess Brick House and also Pucks a Plenty. And both of them put on just amazing inclusive shows that made me feel like I could belong on the stage. And something that I struggle with as a performer who is disabled is this idea of production. And I feel like capitalism, colonialism, all of those isms, ableism, oh gosh, they all combine together. And really made me question my legitimacy as an artist because of my low production. And something that I really got out of my time with Whisper was that production does not relate to legitimacy, essentially. I am a legitimate performer, whether I am performing every day, if I'm performing once a year, or if I'm not performing at all. And I think that is really important because being a disabled artist is kind of this balance, right? Between your disability being a part of every single thing you do, every decision you make. Yeah. So right now, I am really focusing on the idea of expressing emotion through movement because I think it's something about my identities that have been oppressed for so long that I needed an outlet. And movement is it for me. That's not true. I'm such a nerdy artist in so many different things. Like, but right now, what we're talking about is, yeah, the idea of expressing emotion through movement. And that's how Anna and I got connected. Actually, I was performing with a Sacred Passing community event on grief. And
Amazing.
Sacred Passing is amazing.
thank you. Yes, shout out to the Sacred Passing. Lashana is doing amazing work. Yeah, and that access should be available for any artist or human, regardless of ability. And I just come back again to this idea that we all deserve accommodations, and really universal design is something that would benefit everyone. And so I think it's really important as a disabled artist to, I don't know, I guess part of my experience here is like educating on the importance of universal design and universal accommodation, because it really benefits everyone. That's why it's universal. And whatever spectrum of ableness people may perceive themselves on in this moment, thinking that universal design or accommodation does not currently apply to them, it absolutely will. Because if you live long enough, you will change directions on your ableist or your able spectrum.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and being a bimbo for me is really attacking this idea of respectability coming from intelligence. Because no. And I just want to be a silly bimbo and stand up for myself and everyone else that's oppressed and deserves it. And I want to do that with my titties out. And I think that is great. Yeah. For my kind of mentors or people who I have looked up to be like, oh, there's definitely space for me here. I forgot to mention Demonica Leone and their drag king identity, King Leo Main, as they have also really inspired me in just the gender. Are we allowed to cuss here? I don't know. Okay, the gender fuckery that occurs. So anyway, I just wanted to give that a shout out. Yeah, and I have felt really fortunate because, like I said, the productions I was really introduced to and immersed in were put on by Pucks Aplenty and Goddess Burkhouse, and that is, the stage is covered in Black, Brown, Indigenous bodies, people of all gender identities, people of all ability. And I know that's not the burlesque scene for everyone. And so I feel really fortunate to be participating in that type of culture. And that itself is a special type of access. But I'm going to stand in it and honor it and feel really grateful and hopefully continue to add into those spaces as much as possible. Really with the idea of universal design and universal accommodations, because I think both of those are right for anyone, including performers. Yeah.
Absolutely. So first, we'd like to welcome Ray, who came in. We're excited, so we thought that we would let them join the chat as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. So much of that resonated with me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I will let Sophie, if you have questions first.
I have 3 that I hope are quick for you, but I also know these are all things that are probably gonna be big jumping off points. So my first one was, you had mentioned universal design, so it sort of answered my first question, but it's sort of a two-parter.
Yeah.
And what for you would you love? I would say, like, what would be your dream version of an accessible like rehearsal process? Slash, have you ever been in a situation where that access for specifically disabled people, but in general, you felt was really accomplished?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so one thing I think about with this, particularly, so my background before burlesque is in belly dance, and I'm mostly solo, and that has to do a lot about accommodation and accessibility because I'm trying to think about how I want to answer this. Okay, actually, I'll share a really positive group experience I had that did experience this. But what was challenging is, so it was one person, and I was a part of a performance in Tacoma through the Barefoot Collective, and I'm a part of the Mycelial Movement Network, Mycelial Healing Network, and Morgan Vanderpool was kind of the jump off point. And they scheduled, I think it was 10 performers into all these different choreography blocks. And we all collectively created choreography together. And it could be virtual or in person. So I think that's
really
a
important.
huge, and it's crazy because before the pandemic, right, that wasn't even a thing that people were thinking of, and now disabled people are like, thank you.
It's something that disabled people have actually been asking for a long time, pre-pandemic.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I know, but when it affects, everybody, then it's
Certainly it's a possibility.
Be careful with how sharp my language is. So that was really cool because not only was that like a universal design for rehearsal space, but it was also a decolonized process because there really was no leader. While Morgan was really facilitating schedules, like the choreographers listed for the piece is everyone, because everyone really did contribute, and it was amazing. And so, yeah, I think that universal design in rehearsal is possible. We did, the spaces themselves were Morgan's house and then a park. And so parks, not always, but can be, more focused on accessibility. Shout out to Parks and Rec humans. And so, yeah, I did have that experience of it existing, but I would say that's kind of an outlier so far. And I tend to stick into solo type pieces because it's not accessible for me to commit to something that is a quote unquote able-bodied schedule. Which sucks, right? Because then I'm kind of missing out on like community collaboration, and choreographed pieces are so amazing when it's at any level of performance. But when you see like 6, 7, 8 performers all just nailing something, it just hits different. So I have experienced it. It does exist. But again, it did take the labor of Morgan to really be like, they went to, gosh, 21 rehearsals, or I don't know, something just absolutely ridiculous, right? So we have to learn how to all play to our strengths to make it accessible for everyone, but it couldn't be me. I couldn't have been the person going to every rehearsal, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Wow, that sounds really beautiful. Okay, I've got two more.
Okay.
One is you had mentioned, specifically, I think in the bio as well, that expressing emotions was sort of your a big interest, and something that I would really love to know is, because I really love knowing people's practice, like how does that look in a tangible way? So I would love to know, as little detail or as much detail as you would like, what does that look like right now in your rehearsals or your choreographic process?
That's a really good question. Crushing it. Um, I really love telling a story. I think that is a big part of my process in general. I always find my strongest pieces are with a story. Like, even so I collaborate with Ray on music because they are amazing. And I'll even just pull up a chat because they sent me this song and I just had this super nerdy reaction to what it inspired. Where, okay, I was like,
If you
it's
send it to
like,
me, I can post it into the stream chat as well, if it's
okay,
something that's
perfect.
available online.
I'll screenshot. But I said, so they sent me the song and I just said, I'm just gonna go on quotes here. So this is a beautiful song and the build-up's literally a vibe. I'm kind of picturing like a more earthy nature piece for that song, like dirt and trees and mycelium with flowers, like getting birthed from the earth to be alive under. Um yeah, so I have these like very kind of visceral reactions to music, and I kind of let the music take me where I want. No, take me where it wants to go. And Anna, I'm dropping that to you.
Okay.
But sometimes um it's just moving to no music. Sometimes it's just stimming. Sometimes like it's like I it can be so much and so little. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. It was really a delight to meet you. Ray is sending you love from behind me. I am gonna head out, but Anna has lots of questions. We're gonna switch. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes,
Thanks.
Sophie actually has another dance commitment to go to after this. Yes.
Crazy.
All the performing.
Oh my gosh, look at my people.
Look at Ray.
Queer cuties unite. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So the next question from Sophie was, how does gender fuckery and disability intersect in your movement work?
Sophie's really good at questions.
Sophie is on it. Yep.
How does gender fuckery and disability interact in my movement?
Interact, intersect. Mm-hmm.
Intersect. You know, I don't see them as intersecting because they don't exist independently.
Yes, absolutely.
So gender and disability for me are kind of inseparable. I actually, it's a little bit of a tangent, but it's fine. I had a medical appointment and I was talking about managing my chronic conditions and blah, 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 blah. And my doctor's like, are you making time for joy? Like, are you making time to just step away from your disability?
Yes, I think we talked about this.
Step away from your disability?
Like,
yes. And I was so hurt because this is a person who's like advocated for me in the past. And like, I'm really leaning into don't put anyone on a pedestal because you really don't. step away from my disability.
Like
As
how
said the able-bodied person. Like,
it really is. It's like, oh yes, I can just remove my body and walk away from it for a little bit of time.
The literal word
Yeah.
step away.
Yes, it's even like
Yeah, that makes an assumption.
so I'm just gonna like set a timer and just like take a time out from being
And-
disabled.
I actually don't have chronic pain. It's incredible during that 30 minutes when I stepped away. It's incredible.
Yeah, so I think my answer to that question is really, it's a part of every single decision I make.
One and the same.
And the gender fuckery is so hard because my whole gender journey, I like lean like trans man, oh yeah, he, him, no problem. The non-binariness though, which I really am leaning into, and I'm like, that is me, the gender fuckery. What am I? Does it matter? I don't know. Yeah, so it's complicated and I never escape it. I will say that during my performances, I don't necessarily feel my body actually. So it is kind of this like pain-free moment in my life, but it's like on stage explicitly. And like my body doesn't have a temperature. I don't really hear sound. Like I'm having kind of a sensory free experience when I perform on stage.
Wow.
But like my gender fuckery and disability still exist, right? But I would actually say that is
Oh my God, that's what your doctor was
yeah.
talking about.
I know. So then I just have to perform like every day on
Just
stage.
perform 100% of the time. We know you can.
Yeah,
as
that takes no
person.
spoons, no preparation. Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a question that kind of follows up with that. But has there ever been a time when, I mean, so being disabled, you're living in that body and in that moment, and so have you ever had a performance where you've had like a really, really bad flare up and you've had to perform like through the flare up, and how do you handle that? Yeah. General question.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll say as a disabled person, I try to be fairly diligent with my spoon management, energy management, but that doesn't always succeed, unfortunately, because we have very little control over anything, including our own bodies. And again, because I do kind of have a sensory break during a performance, it's kind of a little carrot for me, where even if I am feeling really bad, I know if I show up, especially pre-pandemic, where I'm surrounded by my community, and just the energy and the vibes and everyone being so excited that you're there and loving your performance and everything, your makeup, your hair, right? Like there's just a really cool spoon giving part of interacting in a live space.
And almost like sharing. Sometimes I think of it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say it doesn't change much other than like I'll eat less, so I have less stress over like any GI stuff that might come up. I'm bringing maybe my TENS unit with me to help with pain after, or CBD, or a safe food for after. So I say there's a little bit more deprivation leading up to the performance to just kind of prevent any, well, decrease the likelihood of me not being able to get on stage. Yeah, but I'd say I've learned my body pretty well at this point to know when to say yes and when to say no, and that's kind of limited my opportunities in some ways. However, when I do make a commitment, like very tried and true, I'm known to be very reliable because I do have that history of like, when I say yes, I'm going to be there, and I say yes in a very I don't want to say limited, but it's very like decisive when I am committing to something.
Yes. Which is really impressive, because that's definitely something that, at least in my experience within the disabled community, isn't always something that we can do, because we're so dependent on like our bodies and the state of our bodies, which is frequently out of our control. So I would love to actually talk about your aftercare process and procedure if you have that. But before, I would like to switch a little bit to talk about burlesque and like your specific application of why you chose burlesque, what inspires you about burlesque, and if you have sort of a personal philosophy around like your practice and your discipline.
Amazing. The shallow answer is I love to be naked. I love having my titties out. I just like, I'm so hot, and people should just give me money
for being hot, like, yes,
for being hot. And that's like the bimbo part where I'm just like, I'm hot, give me your money. Like, that's just yeah, that is my kind of shallow answer. My more in-depth answer, which it doesn't even matter because it could be just that, but I do have a little bit more, is like I said, this idea of being introduced to Pucks Aplenty and Goddess Burkhouse Productions, and Goddess Burkhouse co-produces with Cinderella Rosa. But just seeing like fat Black and brown and indigenous bodies on the stage being celebrated. I just applied, Ray, shout out for the music as always, to Fatlesque, which is a Pucks Aplenty production that will be in January. That's just so fucking cool. And I just think that fat bodies should be celebrated. And for burlesque in particular, again, it is not the case for everyone, but I'm very fortunate to have sought out that community and been kind of immersed in it. Is that was the type of dance that most aligned with my values. Excuse me, of being fat and hot. So like, yeah, I guess my deep answer is also my shallow answer. It's just like,
yeah, absolutely. And having space that like where that is the truth, you know.
Yes.
Because I think that when we, you know, walk it and navigate like other spaces that may be more influenced, you know, by the like colonialism and you know, like racism, like you said, all of the isms, that can be like a really, you know, obviously oppressive environment for anyone interested in exploring like sensuality in their body and celebrating their body.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you say, Ray?
Just like a flower trying to grow through concrete.
Which it will, because like, have you seen? Yeah. So I saw myself most reflected there, and really for my whole life, I have been like pro sex work, pro sex workers, sluts needing to rule the world, like fat bodies being, you know, hot or neutral. I go with hot because I think fat bodies are hot.
I mean, same.
Yeah, I just saw myself the most there, and I saw myself reflected back. Like, even though I know there was some things that went down around the Burlesque Hall of Fame weekend, which I'm not fully educated on. There's a lot of gender fuckery happening in the burlesque scene right now, like who can win what,
and has been, right? Like gender fuckery has actually been like a part of the burlesque dance movement, as I understand it, since like its inception.
And belly dance.
And belly dance.
Correct. Yeah, and so I love to be a part of that, and for me, I've been really leaning into this idea of art as resistance. And I had this idea that I was not doing enough to resist. And I've been relearning that just existing within myself authentically is resistance.
Yes.
And for me personally, burlesque embodies that so much,
Mhm.
from inception to present. Right?
Absolutely.
We're like consistently resisting expectation or gender norm or whatever the fuck people are upset about.
So much. Ugh.
And yeah, that just pissing people off that are wrong is just really aligns with me. So
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
definitely.
Same. I actually, yes, I love that. So I wanted to touch, you just talked about it a little bit and we talked about it before, but being a bimbo, and that being also as a way to resist production and the like link that capitalism makes between like production and legitimacy and also intelligence and legitimacy. And that being like this deeply able-bodied, like, neurotypical mindset. So if you had any more to say about that, I'd like to give you the opportunity now.
absolutely. I think it's interesting because there can be such deep answers, but I part of the bimbo-ness of nature is just being hot and like that
Yeah.
being their
Mhm.
philosophy is just like, yeah, I'm hot. Okay, thanks. Now, when people ask me, do I have things to say about universal design and accommodations for all and many others? Absolutely. But do I have to be valid?
Mhm. Mhm.
No. And I think what's really hard is nature as a bimbo is everything that my offstage persona needs. Where that human is very hyper focused on productivity and, value through doing. And nature is just going to be hot with their tits out, and like that's going to be their whole day.
Mhm.
And that's enough. That's
Yeah.
plenty.
No, absolutely. I think that
Describing what
Mhm.
goddesses.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They just yeah.
Can you say that again? Can you repeat what Ray said? I
Well,
can't hear with their mask
there's
on.
something about that mindset, that lifestyle of just existing with your tits out that makes me think of gods, goddesses, like
Blood, bones, and brushes. Yeah.
yes, indeed. Come on in.
Come
Sorry, we're
on
still
in.
more chairs.
Yes, we need more chairs. Sorry. We just more people just walked in.
Hi, people.
Yeah, they can. There are more chairs in that room. Just to the left of the entrance behind the yes, this is true. Hi, I'm so sorry. We have a projector and everything, but we weren't expecting so many in-person people. Everyone's coming.
I love that.
Yes, but to continue, so I think that that is a tension that we really feel right now between the kind of the message that we're trying to get across in resistance, but then also like the practice of resistance. And there being like this message frequently that is like, okay, resist capitalism, resist, productivity culture, resist, colonialism, etc. But then the practice is still very much in line with the tenets of these systems. And that's, I don't want to delegitimize any of that work. Like, obviously, that's really great, but I think that there should be room for like also resisting the practical side of of the systems and how we make art and how we produce within them. Produce isn't even the right word there.
Yes, I I totally agree. And I think just to kind of like piggyback on that a little bit more is the idea of I use that term. I have to look up the like roots of it and make sure it's not problematic because so many of those terms are problematic. Anyway, neurospicy thoughts.
It's difficult to talk about sometimes.
Neurospicy thoughts. Okay, so yes, and I guess too, I want to say that for context, my offstage persona is very much still plugged into that idea of, like I said, the productivity and resisting within a framework that burns them out. And nature is really the embodiment of the opposite of that. With how do we resist with ease? Like, how do we resist with existence? And that's the bimbo to me of, I resist by being a trans fat disabled indigenous body with their tits out making people mad. Like, that's resistance. And yeah, I think all parts are really important for movements in resistance. And I think what you're talking about is really important, because we have to honor, again, if we're thinking about universal design and accommodation, each person has a role, each person has a strength. And nature's strength is distracting people with their tits. That's their strength in resistance. Like,
with their tits and with their butt. Like,
yeah. Period. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes until I'm gonna open it up to the Q&A. But then,
You got really far away. I'm not reading you super well through the mic on this end.
okay, sorry. I can scoot us back in. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, good. Yes, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so how this is a kind of an open-ended question to sort of the last one that I like to ask, but how important is collaboration and feedback in your art making process? And as the final kind of tag of that, are there any other artists who you would like to shout out and share, whose work is in line in the same spirit as your work?
I got distracted with the second part. What was the first part again?
So the first part was, and you actually kind of answered this already, but how important is collaboration, and feedback in your art making process, which we already mentioned. It is important. You had that great experience, but if there's anything.
Yes, that was probably one of my most amazing art creation processes of just, yes, amazing. So for me, I think collaboration within my art is very important for a lot of different reasons. I think it's important for people to check our perspective and make sure that our impact is aligning with our intent. For the most part, right? And I know for me, Bray is a huge contributor actually to kind of like my ideas and my process, and we get to bounce off ideas, and I really like to work that way. Same with Whisper. Also running through anything that could come off in a way that I don't want, because you can kind of get caught up in like your artistic process, and then someone's like, did you consider this? And you're like, oh, good call. As far as feedback, I definitely had to earn kind of some trust with humans, and some feedback Whisper actually gave to me that I really hold on to is, you don't need to hear from anyone who's not going to hype you up. So like, if they're not going to celebrate you, you don't need to hear any of their well-intentioned constructive criticism. And so I really hold on to that. And people who hype me up, I'm happy to hear feedback from them. I'll say too, like my nature's existence is not to be the best. That is a lot I'm not going to say a lot. That is some performers' goal, right? Is recognition and like the trophies and all of that, which is great. I love that. Do the thing.
Yeah.
But no, I want to say, and for nature, it's really just like existing and participating in things that are meaningful, like applying to Fatlesque, which is a celebration of fat bodies. Like, absolutely, right? I want to be a part of that. Yeah, and I'm really excited. So, excuse me, I was newly added into the House de Corvo, and so having my house members to collaborate with and give feedback on, and like these people, you know, we haven't all met in person yet, but having that community of, you know, these people in general have your best in mind and just want you to like all, you know, all of us to shine. I think that's going to be such a cool experience, to be really grounded in that. And then shouting out artists, absolutely. I mentioned 1,000 times, but Whisper de Corvo is amazing. I was obsessed with them, the way they command the stage, and they're also non-binary, neurospicy, indigenous, so really aligns with a lot of my identities. Goddess Brick House, Pucks Aplenty, Demonica Leone, King Leo Main, also Android Allure, who is really open with mental health struggles as part of their burlesque life. Risque and Rye, who also is a disabled burlesque artist. Oh, Jacqueline Box, amazing wheelchair user, performer. Oh my gosh, if you have not looked them up, go right after this. It's
What are
so
they called
good.
again? I'm typing everything into the chat. Everything
I
I'm
love that. Jacqueline Box.
okay. I don't know if I spelled Jacqueline right. That's okay.
Trying to pick my brain. Moscato Sky, trans icon. She's
Yes.
Flair, Amaze, Samson Knight. I mean, like, I could go on forever. There's
Yes,
just so
absolutely.
many good artists.
It's true. It's true. We do have a question from the chat, so I'm actually going to open it up to the Q&A.
I love that. Okay, question from the chat.
Oh my goodness, it's actually, it's where can we find your work at any online videos or upcoming events? So I'll put
Okay,
your
good.
stuff into the chat, and you can tell us about upcoming events.
Yes, I was totally gonna share, of course. So follow me on, Nature is on Instagram at Nature's Candy 3 Eyes, NatureScandii. Same for Venmo and Cash App. So
Yes, give them
send me money. As Nature just existing, I will be at Sugar Shack for Pride tomorrow. That is going to be amazing. That is the church we all deserve. Performance wise, this month I will be performing on June 21st with House de Corvo, and House is HAUSDE and Corvo is CORVO. That's going to be amazing. It is on solstice, and solstice blooms is the theme. So each performance is featuring a flower. Nature is featuring poppy, red poppy, and you really, really don't want to miss this. Like, Ray has seen some our initial draft performance, and I'm saying you don't want to miss it. Ray, do you agree?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Good.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous red bursting, beautiful puppies.
Yes. So yes, that's my upcoming for June.
Okay.
As a disabled performer, I am not super stressed out about performing, and I've been doing like one performance month or every other month, and that has felt like a great cadence.
Okay. Fabulous.
I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. If you follow me on Instagram, my link tree has the things. So.
Excellent. Yes. So first, actually, do any of you have questions? I have more questions in the chat, but I will make sure. Okay. No worries. You have one? Go for it.
Should I go for it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. How would you describe an ideal practice session? Dance practice or vibing, or like what are some of what's the scenery? What's your prep feel like? What kind of music? Yeah.
I'll be so honest. Excuse me. I don't know, because the really cool thing about nature is they just do. They really don't think. Like that is kind of their bimbo-ness, is that they don't really intellectualize. I mean, when you send me amazing music, their brain does a thing that like appears intellectual, but yeah, I don't. I'll say that like
Yeah, all the places.
I practice like anywhere. I'll practice in public. I was working out the other day and I just randomly did a movement practice. I'll be at the grocery store. I'll be in public. My partner's so used to it now because I'll just be in public and just start like twerking or, doing something like really silly in the car before bed.
Oh my gosh. So that has like that's inspired me a little bit as for a follow-up question. But I do that similarly. And that is something that came about actually because of my disability and because I can't always expect to have energy at a particular time. And so when I feel inspired, I'm like, now, we do it now. Like there's no waiting.
Yes, absolutely. But like ideally, the lighting is low because sensory sensitivity is a thing. The music volume is just right for that day. Is it low? Is it high? We don't know. I'm wearing comfy clothes with a little bit of compression, but not too much. No bra, because bras are oppressive for me personally. Everybody can do their own thing with their bodies. There's cats. There's lots of cats.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's tea. There's snackies, like maybe some fresh fruit. There's like a fainting couch, for me to like lay down.
Love that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a group of people to give me a massage after.
Yeah, yes.
So like, I mean, I can create one, but I don't think like day to day.
Yeah, I have recently, this is a total tangent, but I've recently learned about a new genre called cozy fantasy. And that's like that is what that like image invoked in my mind of like, there are cats, there are tea, it's sensual, it's maybe kind of on the border of magical, of like a space where like imagination, it's like free.
Yes, nature is a Taurus, and they are through and through luxury, comfort, ambiance, experience, sensual, all delectable, all of those.
Gorgeous.
Nature.
So that's a perfect segue into the next question we have from the chat. Daniel Rowe asks, I think you mentioned some tension between a performance persona and a personal one. Could you potentially talk more about that?
Hey, Daniel, thank you. I love that. I love this chat. It's so cute. This whole vibe is amazing. I love that. Like, people showed up. Okay.
We have like a few watch parties that we have confirmed. Yes. Yeah, get those.
Shout out to the Shout out to the watch party. Okay, no, I actually had this like perfect to have cleavage, but then I was a bimbo and I thought I was charging my iPad, but my charger wasn't plugged into the wall. So now my iPad is like plugged in and then balanced. And so like, yeah. So what was the question?
Oh, the question was, I think that you mentioned some tension between a performance persona and a personal one. Can you speak more to that?
Absolutely. So we have, non-stage performer, human, very dedicated to helping, usually putting themselves last, not really giving in to, they're working on it, but not giving into like the moment of what they want to do. I mean, they're also naked in public, but it's like less acceptable. But I would say they're really kind of still processing unmasking through capitalism and ableism. Nature uses their hot red cane whenever the fuck they need it. Nature rests without guilt. Nature resists in their rest, in their authentic selves. I would say, we're working on merging these two, but I feel also nature redistributes all parts of their funds as mutual aid. And so nature is the unplug from capitalism as much as possible that their offstage persona dreams of. They feel nature is like if you get unplugged from the matrix, but it's amazing and everyone's naked.
But it's not like a dystopia run by robots. Yes, I like that.
Yes, exactly. So their other persona is like very plugged in. I mean, they're aware, but like they have to plug in to survive,
they have
right?
to operate, within the systems.
And nature gets to not, and they love that. So yeah, I would say
love that for them.
Thank you. There is tension, obviously, of course. But I think it's like an escapism almost. I like really think about people. I don't really play video games because I'm bad at them, and so it's not fun. But I think of that as like, this is my escapism, is like nature just exists and they don't have to plug into capitalism to survive. And that's amazing. That's freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not plugging into capitalism to survive. So nature is free, and their offstage persona pays the bills.
Gorgeous. Yes, absolutely. Any questions? No, that's totally okay. Do you have any more?
Oh, I'm absorbing all
Yes,
the information.
same.
Also, can we like talk a little bit about like who's in the chat? I want to know, like you said, there's watch parties. Like, hello. I want to shout out my other humans that are remote and thank them for showing up.
Can I just ignore this? Okay. Sorry, I just got a Zoom notification, but I think we are still streaming. So yes, so we actually this is really exciting because we were not expecting almost anyone to be here in person, but because we did have like confirmed watch parties in Olympia, in Tacoma, and a few actually in Tacoma. One is from Sophie's friends and family, and a group of like performance artists, and then one is in Olympia, which is sort of my connections, and then there's another one actually in Tacoma, which are more friends and families. So
I love that.
Yes,
shout out to everyone who is remote and in person for coming. Yes, amazing.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. I kind of had this idea of like, who wants to listen to a bimbo talk? But that like people showed up is so
Oh my gosh.
cool.
We are so happy to have you. We got another comment from Linda Drake. Hi, I love that nature is delinked from capitalism. So more just comments. I wasn't sure if that was a question or not.
If
I love
the
that.
if the matrix is capitalism, but you have a persona that exists outside of it, that's kind of nice. It's like you have a friend on the outside and you can tap into them.
Yeah.
I feel like I need that.
I feel like it also would give you superpowers
It would,
in the
just
Matrix.
like in the Matrix.
Yeah, because knowledge will set you free.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nature, again, thank you so much. I'm just so delighted that Ray was able to connect us and we got to have you for this hour. Thank you so much. I think that we are wrapping up here. Is there any other last thoughts or questions that you would like to share with people before we sign everything off?
I don't think so. I had such a lovely time. I really am so grateful and I'm excited to collaborate further in the future. And yeah, I would just say rest is resistance. So everyone just like get some very intentional rest because we deserve it.
It is absolutely true. And if you're interested in that topic, anyone go check out the NAP Ministry.
Yes. Oh my
amazing.
God, the NAP Ministry.
Amazing.
Also,
yeah.
everyone put their tits out at some point later and just
Yes,
feel
just let 'em-
themselves
Mm.
or chest, whatever your gender preference is. Nature is non-binary, but they love tits. But your chest, if that feels good, whatever feels good to you, just like celebrate it and be slutty.
Beautiful. All right. Then you are good to go. Thank you so much. I'm going to collapse the chat. And again, just thank you so much.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.